Princess Zrth of the Veltar Empire stood before the massive crystalline windows of the palace's highest tower, her four arms crossed in defiance as she gazed out at the twin moons hanging in the purple sky. Her scaled skin shimmered with an angry crimson hue, a clear sign of her emotional turmoil to anyone familiar with Veltar physiology. "Mother, why am I forced to marry a human?" she demanded, turning to face Empress Kilura, whose own skin displayed the deep blue of royal authority mixed with golden streaks of concern. The Empress, standing nearly 3 meters tall with her crown of bioluminescent tendrils flowing like liquid starlight, sighed deeply. "Daughter, you know the situation our empire faces. The Zephyrian Collective grows stronger each cycle, and their bioweapons have already consumed 17 of our outer colonies." Zrth's tail lashed violently behind her, leaving scoring marks on the polished floor. But humans? They're barely evolved primates. They've only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last 50 of their years. What could they possibly offer us that our advanced civilization cannot provide? "Survival," came a gravelly voice from the chamber's entrance. Admiral Thexmore entered, his battle-scarred carapace telling the story of countless conflicts. Half of his face had been replaced with cybernetic implants after the disaster at Kepler 442b. "Your Highness, with respect, you have not witnessed what these primates are capable of." The princess whirled to face him, her natural weapons extending slightly from her forearms. "Enlighten me, Admiral. What could these soft, weak creatures possibly do that our warrior caste cannot?" Thexmore activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Images of human soldiers flashed before them, but these were unlike any beings Zrth had expected to see. Where she had anticipated frail, pink creatures, she saw warriors encased in power armor that rivaled her own people's technology, wielding weapons that seemed to defy conventional physics. 3 cycles ago, the Zephyrians attacked the human colony of New Geneva. The Admiral began his mechanical eye focusing on the tactical display. The humans had a population of 1.2 million civilians and a garrison of merely 10,000 soldiers. The Zephyrian force numbered over 200,000 bio-enhanced warriors. Zrth scoffed. "A massacre, surely." "Indeed, Your Highness. A massacre of the Zephyrians." The hologram shifted to show aftermath footage. Where a Zephyrian army should have stood victorious, only human soldiers remained, their armor scorched but intact, standing among the dissolved remains of their enemies. "Impossible," Zrth whispered, her skin flickering between disbelief and curiosity. "The humans call it going hard, or bringing the pain," Thexmore continued. "When cornered, when fighting for their homes and families, they become something else entirely. Something that even our most seasoned veterans find disturbing." Empress Kilura gestured for them to sit at the council table. "The human you are to marry is Admiral Marcus Chun of the Terran Defense Force. He led that defense." "He's a military leader?" Zrth asked, some of her hostility replaced by professional interest. "Not just any military leader," the Empress replied. "He's what the humans call a Mustang, someone who rose from the lowest ranks to command through merit alone. His tactical innovations have been studied by our own war colleges." The hologram shifted again, showing a surprisingly modest-looking human male with graying hair at his temples and eyes that seemed to hold depths of experience. Unlike the towering Veltar, he appeared unremarkable by their standards, bipedal, soft-skinned, lacking natural weapons or armor. "He looks so fragile," Zrth observed. "That is what makes humans dangerous," Admiral Thexmore interjected. "They appear vulnerable, so their enemies underestimate them. Then, when the situation becomes desperate, they reveal capabilities that our scientists still cannot fully understand." "What do you mean?" the princess asked, leaning forward despite herself. The Admiral's organic eye grew distant with memory. "I was aboard the dreadnought Kethmora when we assisted human forces against a Zephyrian fleet at Proxima Centauri. Our sensors detected massive energy spikes from the human vessels that should have overloaded their power cores. Instead, their ships somehow channeled that energy into weapons that cut through Zephyrian bioarmor like it was atmospheric gas. Their engineers later claimed it was emergency overclocking and percussive maintenance, Empress Kilera added with what might have been amusement. When our scientists asked for technical specifications, the humans simply said they hid it until it worked better. Zara-TH felt her worldview shifting uncomfortably. But surely their technology is still inferior to ours. In some ways, yes, the Empress acknowledged. Their ships are crude, their material science is primitive, and their understanding of quantum mechanics is rudimentary. But they compensate with something we lack, which is adaptability bordering on insanity, Fexmore said bluntly. During the siege of New Geneva, when their ammunition ran low, human soldiers began using improvised weapons. Kitchen implements, garden tools, even decorative objects became lethal in their hands. One human defender killed 3 Zephyrian shock troops with what their after-action report listed as aggressive interpretive dance. The princess stared at the hologram showing Marcus Chun reviewing battle plans with his staff. The humans around him moved with quiet efficiency, but there was something in their bearing that suggested coiled springs ready to unleash devastating force. The marriage alliance will bring us access to human tactical doctrine and their unique problem-solving approaches, the Empress explained. In return, we provide them with our advanced materials science and energy technologies. And if I refuse? Zara-TH asked, though her tone had lost much of its earlier defiance. Then we face the Zephyrian advance alone, her mother replied simply. Our projections show a 73% chance of total defeat within 5 cycles. With the humans? Unknown. But their own projections show a 15% chance of mutual annihilation of all parties involved, including themselves. The Empress paused. They consider this an acceptable outcome. Zara-TH's skin shifted to a pale green of shock. They would rather die than surrender? Apparently, there's a human phrase, death before dishonor. But they have expanded it to include death before boredom, death before taxes, and several dozen other variations. Our xenopsychologists believe this stems from what humans call spite, a concept that translates roughly to causing harm to oneself in order to cause greater harm to one's enemies. The princess stood and walked back to the window, her mind reeling. Everything she had been taught about the galaxy's hierarchy was being turned upside down. The Veltar were supposed to be among the most advanced species, with only a few peers like the Silicon Collective or the Ethereal Dominion. Humans weren't even supposed to register as more than a curiosity. When do I meet him? She asked finally. His ship arrives tomorrow, the Empress replied. The TDF Indomitable will dock at Station 7. Indomitable, Zara-TH repeated. Is that typical of human ship names? Actually, it's rather restrained, Admiral Fexmore said, consulting his datapad. Their fleet includes vessels named Absolutely No Mercy, Teenage Wasteland, and I Dare You. The humans seem to view spacecraft naming as an opportunity for what they call psychological warfare. There's also the Warsaw Pact enthusiast and sort of Damocles, the Empress added. Our diplomatic corps had to research human history extensively just to understand the implications. As the twin moons reached their zenith, Zara-TH made her decision. I will meet with this Admiral Chun, but I make no promises about marriage. That's all we ask, her mother said, relief evident in her golden skin patterns. Just keep an open mind. The next day, Station 7 buzzed with activity as the human fleet approached. Zara-TH watched from the observation deck as 3 human vessels dropped out of hyperspace with what seemed like excessive caution. The lead ship, presumably the Indomitable, was a study in controlled aggression. Angular where Veltar ships were curved, heavily armored where theirs were shielded, and bristling with weapon systems that seemed almost crude by galactic standards. Their tactical formation is interesting, Admiral Fexmore observed, joining her at the viewing port. See how they're positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire while maintaining escape vectors? It's very paranoid, Zarth noted. Humans prefer the term prepared. Their military doctrine assumes that any peaceful situation is one ambush away from total warfare. As the human ships docked, Zarth got her first look at their crews. The humans moved with purpose and efficiency, but there was something else, a barely contained energy that reminded her of predators pretending to be domesticated. "Your Highness," came a voice behind her. She turned to see a human liaison officer, a woman with short dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral Chun requests permission to come aboard." "Granted," Zarth replied, switching to the human language she had been studying. When Marcus Chun stepped through the airlock, Zarth's first impression was of control power. He was indeed smaller than she had expected, but he moved with the confidence of someone accustomed to command. His uniform was practical rather than ceremonial, and she noticed that he had positioned himself to keep both the exit and her guards in his peripheral vision. "Your Highness," he said, offering what she recognized as a human military salute. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Admiral Chun," she replied, noting how his eyes briefly assessed her natural weapons and defensive posture. "I must confess, you are not what I expected." "Neither are you," he said with what might have been a smile. "Though I should mention that my briefings described Veltar princesses as terrifyingly competent warrior diplomats with natural weapons that could cut through battleship armor. So far, you're living up to the advertising." Zarth found herself almost smiling in return. "And you were described as a strategically unpredictable human with a tendency to achieve victory through methods that violate several known laws of physics. I'm curious to see if that's accurate." "Well," Marcus said, his smile becoming more genuine, "the day is young." As they walked through the station's diplomatic quarters, Zarth found herself studying this human more carefully. He moved quietly for someone wearing what appeared to be armored boots, and she noticed that his casual positioning always kept him near potential weapons. A decorative statue here, a ceremonial blade there. "Tell me about New Geneva," she said suddenly. Marcus paused, and for a moment his casual demeanor shifted to something much more serious. "What specifically would you like to know?" "The truth, not the sanitized version my military advisors provided." He considered this for a long moment. "The Zephyrians hit us with everything they had. Bioweapons, atmospheric processors designed to terraform the planet for their species, and about 200,000 of their finest warriors. We had 10,000 soldiers and a civilian population that had never seen real combat. And you won." "We survived," he corrected. "There's a difference." They had reached a private balcony overlooking the station's central hub. Marcus leaned against the railing, and Zarth noted that even in this relaxed pose, he maintained situational awareness. "The Zephyrians made a tactical error," he continued. "They assumed that because we were outnumbered, we would behave logically and surrender. They didn't account for the fact that humans, when cornered, tend to become aggressively creative. Admiral Thex Moore mentioned aggressive interpretive dance." Marcus actually laughed at that. "Corporal Martinez, the Zephyrians were using sonic disruptors to coordinate their troops." Martinez was a dancer before she enlisted, so she recognized the rhythm patterns. She started moving in counter rhythms, which disrupted their coordination long enough for her squad to eliminate 3 shock troops. "That's insane." "That's human," Marcus said simply. "We don't have natural armor, or multiple arms, or energy manipulation abilities. What we have is the ability to look at any situation and ask, what if we tried something completely stupid?" Zarth studied his profile as he gazed out at the stars. "Why did you agree to this marriage alliance?" "Same reason you're here, I imagine. My people are facing an existential threat, and this represents our best chance of survival." He turned to look at her directly. "Though I'll admit, I was expecting someone more diplomatic. Meaning, someone who would smile politely and make meaningless small talk while we both pretended this was anything other than a strategic necessity." His expression grew more serious. "You asked for truth. I appreciate that. And what's the truth about this alliance from a human perspective? Marcus was quiet for a moment, organizing his thoughts. The Zephyrians aren't just expanding. They're systematically eliminating every species that doesn't fit their biological template. We've seen their work. Entire civilizations reduced to organic components for their bioships. You're afraid, terrified. He agreed without hesitation. But fear doesn't make us surrender. It makes us angry. And angry humans tend to do things that make the universe sit up and take notice. As if summoned by his words, an aide approached with urgent expressions. Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from the Kepler 442 system. Zephyrian forces are attacking the research station. Marcus straightened immediately, his casual demeanor vanishing. How many ships? Initial reports suggest a full biofleet. At least 50 capital ships. Zara-TH felt her skin shifting to alarmed orange. That's where our joint research facility is located. The one with both human and Veltar scientists, Marcus confirmed. He turned to her with an expression she was beginning to recognize as distinctly human, equal parts determination and barely controlled fury. Your Highness, would you be interested in seeing how humans handle a rescue mission? You want to attack a Zephyrian biofleet with 3 ships. I want to save those scientists, Marcus corrected. The fact that we'll probably have to kill a lot of Zephyrians to do it is just a bonus. Zara-TH stared at him for a moment, then at the aide who was clearly accustomed to orders that defied conventional military wisdom. How do you plan to defeat 50 capital ships with 3? Marcus's smile returned, but now it held an edge that made her scales tingle with anticipation. Princess, has anyone ever explained to you the human concept of overkill? No. Good, he said, already moving toward the docking bay. You're about to get a practical demonstration. Aboard the TDF Indomitable, Zara-TH experienced her first taste of human military efficiency in action. The bridge was a study in controlled chaos. Dozens of crew members moving with purpose while streams of data flowed across multiple displays. What struck her most was the absence of panic. Despite facing odds that would make any rational military commander retreat, the humans around her showed only focused determination. Status report. Marcus called out as he took his position in the captain's chair. Kepler 442 research station is under direct assault, reported the tactical officer, a woman whose calm voice belied the gravity of the situation. Zephyrian biofleet consists of 53 capital ships, approximately 200 support vessels, and what appears to be a mobile hive ship. Zara-TH's skin immediately shifted to the deep purple of extreme alarm. A hive ship? Admiral Chun, those vessels can spawn unlimited biofighters. They're essentially mobile ecosystem factories. How delightful, Marcus replied dryly. Estimated time to target? 4 hours at maximum burn, the navigation officer responded. And how long before the research station falls? At current rate of assault, maybe 2 hours. Marcus leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming against the armrest in a rhythm that Zara-TH was beginning to recognize as his thinking pattern. Options. Standard tactical doctrine would be to request reinforcements and establish a defensive perimeter around the nearest inhabited system, the tactical officer suggested. How long for reinforcements? Minimum 12 hours for a response fleet. So the station would be gone, the scientists dead, and the Zephyrians would have a forward operating base in the sector. Marcus nodded, as if this was merely an interesting puzzle. Unacceptable. Alternative suggestions? The bridge fell silent for a moment before a young ensign spoke up. Sir, we could try the Wellington Gambit. Zara-TH saw several of the crew exchange glances that mixed excitement with what appeared to be religious dread. What's the Wellington Gambit? She asked. Something we learned from studying ancient human military history, Marcus explained. Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington, once said that the whole art of war consists in getting at what is on the other side of the hill. The Gambit involves using that principle in space combat. I don't understand. The tactical display shifted to show their projected course to Kepler 442. Instead of a direct route, The navigation plot showed a complex path that would take them through an asteroid field, around a gas giant, and through the system's outer comet cloud. "We're going to arrive where the Zephyrians aren't looking," Marcus continued. "While they're focused on reducing the station to component atoms, we'll approach from the system's polar axis and drop directly into the middle of their formation." "That's not a strategy," Zara-TH protested. "That's suicide. Only if you think conventionally," the ensign who had suggested the gambit said with evident pride. "The key is the timing and what the Admiral likes to call aggressive geometry." Marcus gestured to the tactical display. "The Zephyrians have excellent sensors, but they suffer from the same limitation as most space-capable species. They think in terms of planetary ecliptic planes. They position their formations to control approach vectors from the directions that most ships would naturally arrive from. But humans don't think naturally," added the navigation officer with what Zara-TH was learning to recognize as distinctly human humor. "The comet cloud approach will mask our thermal signatures." The tactical officer continued the explanation. "By the time their sensors detect us, we'll be inside their defensive perimeter." "And then what?" Zara-TH asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "Then we demonstrate why humans have never lost a close-quarter space engagement," Marcus said simply. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of preparations that defied everything Zara-TH understood about military protocol. Where Veltar forces would conduct formal briefings and establish detailed tactical plans, the human crew seemed to operate on a combination of shared understanding and improvised adaptation. She watched in fascination as the weapons officer ran diagnostics on systems that appeared to have been modified far beyond their original specifications. "Are those torpedo tubes supposed to glow like that?" she asked. "Definitely not," the weapons officer replied cheerfully. "But Chief Martinez figured out how to overcharge the magnetic accelerators by rerouting power from the environmental systems." "What happens to life support?" "We'll be breathing recycled air for a while, but we'll be breathing it victorious," came the response. As they approached the asteroid field that would begin their covert approach, Zara-TH noticed that the human crew was making what appeared to be personal preparations. Some checked photographs of family members, others performed what looked like ritualistic equipment maintenance, and a few engaged in what the Admiral had described as pre-battle meditation, though it looked more like controlled violence directed at inanimate objects. "Are they always like this before combat?" she asked Marcus during a brief lull. "Like what?" "Combat intense. As if they're looking forward to the fight." Marcus considered this. "Princess, what's the Veltar attitude toward combat?" "Combat is a tool of policy. We engage when necessary to achieve strategic objectives, and we prefer to minimize casualties on all sides." "Admirable," Marcus nodded. "Humans see it differently. For us, combat isn't just about achieving objectives. It's about protecting the things we care about. When someone threatens our people, our homes, our way of life." He gestured at the crew around them. "They're not excited about the fighting. They're excited about the saving. But you're outnumbered 50-1. 50-3, Marcus corrected. Don't forget the other ships in our task force. 3 ships against 53 is not significantly better odds." "Depends on the ships," the tactical officer interjected. "And the crews. And how creatively you're willing to interpret the laws of physics." As if to emphasize her point, the ships suddenly shuddered as they entered the asteroid field at what Zara-TH was certain was an unsafe velocity. The navigation officer was piloting them through gaps between spinning rocks that seemed barely wider than the ship itself, while the engineering crew made constant adjustments to keep their signatures hidden. "This is insane," Zara-TH muttered, watching an asteroid the size of small moon drift past the view screen with maybe 10 meters to spare. "This is Tuesday," replied the helm officer without taking his eyes off his instruments. When they finally cleared the asteroid field and began their approach through the comet cloud, Zara-TH got her first look at the Zephyrian biofleet through the ship's sensors. The alien vessels were things of organic horror, living ships that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns and trailed clouds of smaller organisms like mobile asteroid fields of flesh and chitin. Sensors are picking up massive bioenergy readings, the tactical officer reported. The Hive ship is actively spawning new fighters. Estimate 3,000 biofighters and growing. Any word from the research station? They're still transmitting, but shields are down to 18%. Maybe 20 minutes left. Marcus stood and moved to the central tactical display. All right, people. This is what we trained for. Remember, fast, violent, and thoroughly unreasonable. Questions. Rules of engagement, sir? Asked the weapons officer. If it's Zephyrian and it's not actively surrendering, kill it. If it's surrendering, kill it anyway because bioships can't actually surrender. Marcus paused. Any ethical concerns about xenocide? The bridge crew exchanged glances, and Zara TH was surprised to see several of them actually consider the question seriously before the tactical officer spoke for the group. Sir, they're trying to dissolve our scientists. Ethics can wait until after we've saved them. Fair enough. Princess, Marcus turned to her. I should mention that what you're about to see may seem excessive by galactic standards. Human military doctrine tends toward what we call disproportionate response, meaning that when someone threatens us, we don't just defeat them. We defeat them so thoroughly that their species develops trauma responses to our ship designs. The comet cloud began to thin as they approached the inner system. On the tactical display, the Zephyrian fleet appeared as a cloud of red markers surrounding the blue that represented the research station. The bioships were arrayed in what any military strategist would recognize as an optimal siege formation. Multiple layers of overlapping fire support with the Hive ship positioned to spawn reinforcements as needed. It's actually a beautiful formation, Zara TH admitted grudgingly. Textbook application of overwhelming force. It is, Marcus agreed, which is why they'll never see us coming. Helm, position us directly above their formation. Weapons, are our special packages ready? Aye, sir. Chief Martinez's modifications are online, and the torpedo tubes are loaded with her party favors. What exactly are party favors? Zardich asked, though she was beginning to suspect that she was better off not knowing. Standard antimatter torpedoes, the weapons officer explained. But Chief Martinez figured out how to overload them to create a cascading reaction that turns them into miniature stars for approximately 47 seconds. That's not possible. According to our physics textbooks, you're absolutely right, Marcus said cheerfully. Fortunately, Chief Martinez never learned to read. The tactical display showed their 3 ships dropping toward the Zephyrian formation like stones falling into a pond. At this range, Zara TH could make out individual bioships, each one easily twice the size of the human vessels and bristling with organic weapons systems that pulsed with malevolent life. Range to target, 60,000 kilometers and closing. Any indication they've detected us? Negative. They're still focused on the station. Marcus settled back into his command chair. Weapons free. Target the Hive ship first. I want that thing dead before it can spawn any more fighters. Secondary targets are the command bioships. Ignore the smaller vessels unless they directly threaten us. Sir, the tactical officer said with what sounded like anticipation, requesting permission to demonstrate why humans are terrible at following the laws of war. Permission granted. All ships, this is Indomitable Actual. Remember, we're not here to win a fair fight. We're here to save our people and make the Zephyrians regret they were ever evolved. Execute. The next 30 seconds redefined Zara TH's understanding of space combat. The human ships didn't so much attack the Zephyrian formation as they exploded into it. Their modified torpedoes created expanding spheres of stellar fire that turned bioships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma, while their energy weapons carved through organic armor like it was atmospheric vapor. But what truly shocked her was the human ships themselves. Instead of maintaining safe distances and engaging in the traditional exchange of long-range fire, they dove directly into the enemy formation and began what could only be described as three-dimensional knife fighting. The Indomitable rolled and twisted between bioship formations, its weapons tracking and firing at targets faster than Zara-TH could follow. She watched in amazement as they passed within meters of enemy vessels, close enough that she could see the organic patterns on their hulls, while pouring concentrated fire into what the tactical officer was somehow identifying as critical weak points. "How are you targeting their vulnerable areas?" she called out over the chaos. "Chief Martinez again," the weapons officer replied, while simultaneously coordinating firing solutions for 6 different targets. She used to be a xenobiologist before she became an engineer. She knows where to hurt them. On the tactical display, the Zephyrian formation was dissolving into chaos. The Hive ship, largest and most terrifying of their vessels, was listing badly with massive sections of its biohull venting atmosphere and organic fluids. But even as it died, it was still spawning fighters, clouds of smaller organisms that swarmed toward the human ships like angry insects. "Biofighters inbound," the tactical officer announced. "Estimate 1,200 and rising. Point defense systems online and tracking. Request permission to demonstrate why humans are really bad at proportional responses." Marcus glanced at Zara-TH. "Princess, you might want to hold on to something." The ship's point defense network opened fire, and Zara-TH discovered that humans had apparently decided that the best defense against swarms of small targets was to fill the entire volume of space around their ships with accelerated metal projectiles. The result was a sphere of destruction that turned biofighters into expanding clouds of organic debris. "How many rounds per minute are those systems firing?" she asked, watching the display with horrified fascination. "Approximately 40,000 per gun," came the casual reply. Chief Martinez figured out how to link the targeting systems to the ship's quantum processors. The guns literally predict where the fighters are going to be and fill that space with bullets before they get there. Through all of this, Zara-TH noticed that the human crews were communicating in a mixture of technical jargon and what she could only describe as enthusiastic profanity. Orders like "paint that bio-cruiser with a rainbow of death" and "show them our commitment to aggressive customer service" somehow translated into precise tactical maneuvers that systematically dismantled ships that should have been able to destroy the human vessels without difficulty. "Station shields are holding," someone reported. "Bioseed ships are breaking off their attack." "Pursuit vector?" "They're running, sir." "What's left of them?" Marcus stood and surveyed the tactical display. Where 53 Zephyrian vessels had been minutes before, perhaps a dozen were now limping away at best possible speed, leaving behind debris fields that sparkled with the remains of their fellows. "Damage report? Minimal. Some scoring on the hull. And we'll need to replace the point defense barrels, but Chief Martinez says that's just normal maintenance after what she calls a Tuesday morning workout." "Casualties?" "None, sir." Though Ensign Park says the excitement made him spill coffee on his console, and he's requesting permission to file a hostile workplace complaint against the Zephyrians. Zara-TH stared at Marcus, trying to process what she had just witnessed. "You destroyed an entire biofleet." "We saved the research station," Marcus corrected. "The fact that we had to commit genocide to do it was just an unfortunate necessity." "In 18 minutes. Actually, 17 minutes and 34 seconds, the tactical officer corrected proudly. New squadron record. As the human ships moved to dock with the research station and begin rescue operations, Zara-TH found herself reassessing everything she thought she knew about humans, about warfare, and about her own empire's chances of survival. "Admiral," she said finally, "I believe I'm beginning to understand why my mother thought this marriage alliance might be beneficial." Marcus turned to her with that distinctly human smile that mixed humor with something much more dangerous. "Princess, you haven't seen anything yet. That was just a rescue mission. Wait until you see what we do when we're actually trying to hurt someone." The research station's docking bay was a scene of organized chaos as human and Veltar rescue teams worked together to evacuate the surviving scientists. Zara-TH watched in fascination as the two species, despite their vastly different physiologies, coordinated their efforts with remarkable efficiency. "Dr. Kethval," she called out, recognizing one of her people's leading xenobiologists. The elderly Veltar male turned, his skin showing the pale blue of relief, mixed with the orange of stress. "Your Highness, by the Great Spiral, we thought we were going to become research specimens ourselves." He gestured at the humans around them. These creatures, they appeared out of nowhere and turned 50 bio-ships into stellar debris in less time than it takes me to complete a proper greeting ritual. "I witnessed it," Zara-Th admitted. "Dr. Kethval, what were you researching here that was so important the Zephyrians would risk a full fleet assault?" The scientist's skin shifted to excited yellow. "Princess, we've made a breakthrough that could change everything. But perhaps Admiral Chun should hear this as well." Marcus appeared at her shoulder with the unsettling, quiet movement she was learning to associate with human combat veterans. "Doctor, I'm here. What did you discover?" "The bioweapon immunity," Dr. Kethval said, producing a sealed data cylinder. "We've successfully replicated it." Zara-Th felt her skin flush to shocked white. "You've done what?" "The immunity that makes humans resistant to Zephyrian bioweapons," the doctor explained excitedly. "We've identified the mechanism and successfully transferred it to test subjects of 12 different species." Marcus went very still in a way that made Zara-Th's predator sense tingle. "Explain." Dr. Kethval activated a holographic display that showed what appeared to be microscopic organisms. Human immune systems don't just resist Zephyrian bioweapons. They actively adapt to them. Each exposure makes humans more resistant to future attacks. It's as if your species evolved specifically to counter biological warfare. "That's impossible," Zara-Th said. "No species naturally evolves defenses against weapons that didn't exist until recently." But that's where it gets interesting," another voice interrupted. Dr. Sarah Kim, one of the human xenobiologists, approached with what Zara-Th was learning to recognize as the particular expression humans wore when they were about to share something disturbing. "Dr. Kim." Marcus prompted. "Admiral, we've been comparing human genetic sequences with archaeological samples from your home planet. The immunity isn't recent evolution, it's ancient. Extremely ancient." "How ancient?" Zara-Th asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. "Based on our analysis, the relevant genetic markers are at least 50,000 years old, possibly older." The implications hit Zara-Th like a physical blow. "You're saying humans evolved biological warfare immunity 50,000 years before they encountered bioweapons?" "That's one interpretation," Dr. Kim agreed. "The other interpretation is that humans evolved the immunity because they encountered bioweapons 50,000 years ago." The docking bay fell silent except for the background noise of continuing evacuation efforts. Marcus was staring at the genetic data with an expression that Zara-Th couldn't quite read. "Admiral," she said carefully, "what aren't you telling me?" Marcus exchanged glances with Dr. Kim before answering. "Princess, there are things about human history that we don't usually share with other species. Not because we're secretive, but because they tend to find the information disturbing. More disturbing than watching you commit genocide against a bio-fleet in 18 minutes. Much more disturbing," Dr. Kim said quietly. "Admiral, should I brief her on the predecessor research project?" "The what?" Zara-Th demanded. Marcus sighed deeply. "Princess, what do your people know about the early history of the galaxy?" Basic galactic history shows that spacefaring civilization began approximately 1 million years ago with the emergence of the first truly advanced species. Over time, various species achieved faster-than-light travel and began exploring and colonizing. "That's the standard version," yes, Dr. Kim agreed. "But human archaeological evidence suggests a different timeline." "Different how?" "We've found evidence of previous galactic civilizations," Marcus said simply. "Multiple waves of them, stretching back millions of years. And evidence of what destroyed them." Zara-Th felt her legs suddenly unsteady. "What destroyed them?" Dr. Kim activated another holographic display, this one showing archaeological artifacts that were clearly technological, but unlike anything in current galactic civilization. Bioweapons, Princess. Massive, coordinated biological warfare campaigns that turn entire species against themselves before dissolving them into component materials. The Zephyrians? Predecessors of the Zephyrians. Marcus corrected. Or possibly the Zephyrians themselves, if they're older than we thought. The biosignatures match. But if previous civilizations are destroyed, how do you know about them? Because one species survived, Dr. Kim said quietly. One species that developed immunity to the bioweapons and went into deep hiding until the threat passed. The pieces clicked together in Zarth's mind with horrible clarity. Humans. We're not sure, Marcus said. The genetic evidence is suggestive, but not conclusive. What we do know is that human immunity to bioweapons isn't natural evolution. It's engineered. Someone, at some point in our species' past, deliberately modified human genetics to make us resistant to biological warfare. Who? Unknown. But the modifications were extensive and sophisticated beyond anything current galactic civilization could accomplish. Dr. Kethval, who had been listening with growing excitement, interjected, "Admiral, this explains the battlefield observations we've been collecting. Human soldiers don't just resist bioweapons. They seem to instinctively know how to counter them." "What do you mean?" Zarth asked. "At New Geneva, your soldiers were using tactics that seemed to anticipate Zephyrian bioweapon deployment patterns," the Veltar scientist explained to Marcus. "Positioning, timing, even specific countermeasures that shouldn't have been possible without extensive prior experience. We called it good training and intuitive leadership," Marcus said slowly. "But you're suggesting it was genetic memory?" "Possibly. The same genetic modifications that provide immunity might include instinctive knowledge of bioweapon warfare." Zarth sat down heavily on a nearby crate, her mind reeling. "So humans are what? Living weapons designed to fight biowarfare." "We're people," Marcus said firmly. "Whatever we were designed to be doesn't change what we choose to be. But it does explain your effectiveness against the Zephyrians," Dr. Kim added. "If our species was literally engineered to counter this specific threat, then our tactical advantages aren't just luck or innovation. They're purpose-built capabilities." "There's more," Dr. Kethval said hesitantly. "Princess, we've begun transferring the immunity to volunteer subjects for various species. The initial results are remarkable." "Show me," Zarth commanded. The scientist led them to a sealed laboratory section where several volunteers from different species were undergoing testing. As they watched, a Veltar volunteer was exposed to a weakened Zephyrian bioweapons sample, something that would normally cause immediate cellular breakdown. Instead, the volunteer's modified immune system responded with the same aggressive efficiency they had observed in humans. The bioweapon was not just neutralized. It was completely eradicated, and the volunteer's system began producing antibodies that would prevent future infection. "How many species have you tested?" Marcus asked. 12 so far. The treatment works on all of them, though the adaptation period varies. "And how long to treat an entire population? With current production capabilities?" "Approximately 6 months for a planet with 50 million inhabitants." Zarth stood and walked to the observation window, watching as another volunteer, this one from the insectoid Kethari collective, underwent successful treatment. "This changes everything." "It does," Marcus agreed. "The question is what we do with this information." "What do you mean?" "Princess, think about the implications. If this immunity can be mass-produced and distributed, the Zephyrian bioweapon advantage disappears. They become just another aggressive species with organic technology." "That's good, isn't it?" Marcus and Dr. Kim exchanged another of those looks that made Zarth nervous. "Admiral, what else aren't you telling me?" "The immunity treatment isn't just defensive," Dr. Kim said quietly. "The same modifications that protect against bioweapons also enhance the ability to create them. Every species we've treated has shown increased resistance to biological warfare," Dr. Kethval added, "but also increased capability to wage it. The human genetic modifications appear to be designed not just to survive biowarfare, but to excel at it. Zartich felt the room spinning slightly. You're saying the humans aren't just immune to bioweapons. You're naturally superior biowarriors? We prefer to think of it as having really aggressive immune systems, Marcus said with dark humor. But, yes, the capability is there. And now you can give this capability to other species? We can, Dr. Kim confirmed. The question is whether we should. The moral implications crash down on Zartich like a collapsing building. You're talking about fundamentally altering the nature of galactic warfare, making every species capable of the kind of biological destruction the Zephyrians wield, or making every species capable of defending against it, Marcus countered. Princess, the Zephyrians aren't going to stop with our sectors. Their expansion is systematic and total. Without this immunity, every spacefaring species in the galaxy will eventually face extinction. But with the immunity, we level the playing field. The Zephyrians lose their primary advantage, and the galaxy gets a chance to survive. Dr. Kethval cleared his throat diplomatically. Your Highness, there is one additional consideration. What? The treatment appears to have side effects. Zartich looked at him with growing dread. What kind of side effects? Enhanced physical capabilities, improved reflexes, increased strength, and endurance, accelerated healing. The volunteers are becoming more what? More like humans, Marcus said quietly. The laboratory fell silent except for the hum of medical equipment. Zartich stared at the volunteers undergoing treatment, realizing that she was looking at the potential future of galactic civilization. Species modified to fight biowarfare, enhanced with human genetic advantages, and equipped with the capability to wage biological warfare themselves. How long before the Zephyrians discover what you've learned? She asked finally. Based on their assault pattern, they already suspect, Dr. Kim replied. This attack wasn't random. They specifically targeted our joint research facilities, which means we have limited time to decide what to do with this information, Marcus added. Princess, I need to know, will the Veltar Empire support mass distribution of the immunity treatment? Zartich considered the implications. Her people could remain pure, unmodified, and face eventual extinction at Zephyrian hands. Or they could accept modification that would make them more like humans, stronger, more aggressive, and capable of biological warfare, but able to survive. There will be resistance, she said finally. Many of our people will see this as contamination of our species. And you? Marcus asked. She looked at him directly, noting how he waited for her answer without trying to influence her decision. Even now, facing the potential extinction of both their species, he was allowing her to choose freely. I've watched humans fight, she said. I've seen what you're capable of when protecting something you care about. If that's what it takes to survive the Zephyrians. She paused, then continued with growing conviction. Then, perhaps it's time for the rest of the galaxy to become a little more human. Marcus nodded slowly. Then, we need to move quickly. Dr. Kim, how fast can we scale up production? With Veltar resources and human production techniques? We could treat the core worlds of both empires within 2 months. Do it. Dr. Kethval, we'll need your help convincing the Veltar leadership. You'll have it, Admiral. As the scientists hurried away to begin the massive undertaking of species modification on a galactic scale, Zartich found herself alone with Marcus in the laboratory. Are we making the right choice? She asked. I don't know, he admitted, but I know what happens if we make no choice at all. The galaxy dies, species by species, until only the Zephyrians remain. And with this choice, Marcus looked at the volunteers, who were already showing the enhanced physical capabilities that marked human genetics. With this choice, the galaxy survives. It'll be different, more aggressive, more dangerous, more human. But it'll be alive. Zartich nodded slowly. Then, let's make sure it survives. 3 weeks later, Zartich stood in the medical bay of the Veltar flagship Eternal Wisdom, watching the final stages of her own immunity treatment. The process had been more intensive than she had expected. Not just a simple injection, but a complex series of genetic modifications that would fundamentally alter her biology. The integration is proceeding normally, Dr. Kethval reported, his skin showing the calm blue of professional satisfaction. Your immune system is already showing enhanced responsiveness, and the physical modifications should manifest within the next few days. What kind of physical changes should I expect? She asked, though she had a feeling she already knew. Enhanced muscular efficiency, improved reflexes, increased bone density, and accelerated cellular repair, the doctor recited from his notes. Essentially, you'll become stronger, faster, and more resilient. More human, she said quietly. More like an optimized version of yourself. Marcus corrected from where he sat nearby. He had insisted on being present during her treatment, claiming it was his duty as her future husband to ensure her safety. Zara-Th suspected it was more because he understood the psychological impact of voluntary species modification. How are the other volunteers responding? She asked. Dr. Kethval activated a holographic display showing treatment statistics from across both empires. Remarkably well. We've successfully treated over 2 million individuals across 17 different species. The immunity is holding in all cases, and the enhanced capabilities are manifesting as expected. Any problems? Some psychological adjustment issues, Marcus admitted. Enhanced reflexes and strength take getting used to. We've had a few incidents of volunteers accidentally damaging equipment or injuring themselves until they adapted to their new capabilities. And the bioweapon resistance? Perfect, Dr. Kethval said with evident pride. We've tested treated individuals against every known Zephyrian bioweapon variant. Complete immunity in all cases. As if summoned by their discussion, Admiral Thexmore's voice came through the ship's communication system. Princess, Admiral Chun, please report to the bridge immediately. We've received urgent intelligence from our forward scouts. The Bridge of the Eternal Wisdom was a study in controlled tension. Unlike human ships with their barely controlled chaos, Veltar vessels operated with serene efficiency. But today, Zara-Th could sense the undercurrent of anxiety among the crew. Report, she commanded as she and Marcus arrived. Our intelligence networks have detected massive Zephyrian fleet movements, Admiral Thexmore announced, his cybernetic eye focusing on the tactical display. They're massing forces for what appears to be a coordinated assault on both our empires. The display showed a three-dimensional map of local space, with red markers indicating Zephyrian fleet positions. The scale of the buildup was staggering, hundreds of bioships converging from multiple directions. How many vessels total? Marcus asked. Conservative estimate, 1,500 capital ships, support vessels numbering in the tens of thousands, and at least 20 hive ships. Zara-Th felt her enhanced physiology responding to the stress. Her new immune system flooding her bloodstream with combat stimulants that made her thoughts sharper and her reflexes faster. They're responding to the immunity project. Intelligence suggests they've detected our treatment distribution efforts, Thexmore confirmed. This appears to be an attempt to destroy both empires before we can achieve widespread immunity. Timeline. Marcus inquired with the calm precision of someone accustomed to impossible odds. Initial assault forces will reach our outer colonies within 4 days. Full fleet assault on our core worlds within 2 weeks. Marcus studied the tactical display with growing intensity. What are our combined fleet strengths? 300 capital ships, roughly 800 support vessels, and approximately 50,000 treated personnel. So we're outnumbered 5-1, Zara-Th observed. 5-1 in ships, Marcus corrected. But our personnel advantage is more significant than the numbers suggest. Explain. Admiral Thexmore gestured to a secondary display showing combat simulation results. We've been running tactical projections based on the enhanced capabilities of treated personnel. The results are remarkable. The simulation showed comparative scenarios, Untreated crews versus Zephyrian bioships resulted in predicted defeat in 73% of engagements. Treated crews showed victory projections in 67% of the same scenarios. The enhancement effects are that significant? Zaratich asked. More than significant, Marcus replied. Princess, have you tested your new capabilities yet? Not extensively. What? Without warning, Marcus tossed a stylus toward her head. Zaratich's enhanced reflexes kicked in automatically. She snatched the stylus out of the air without conscious thought, her movements so fast that several Veltar officers jumped in surprise. Impressive reaction time, Admiral Thexmore observed. How did that feel? Zaratich stared at the stylus in her hand, like I knew exactly where it was going to be and how to intercept it, as if I had practiced that specific movement thousands of times. Genetic memory integration, Marcus explained. The modifications don't just enhance your physical capabilities, they include instinctive combat knowledge. Every treated individual is essentially gaining 50,000 years of survival experience. But we still face the numerical disadvantage, Admiral Thexmore pointed out. Even with enhanced crews, 1,500 Zephyrian ships represent overwhelming force. Only if we fight them conventionally, Marcus said, his expression shifting to what Zaratich now recognized as his dangerous idea. Look, what are you thinking? She asked, though part of her wasn't sure she wanted to know. I'm thinking it's time to demonstrate why humans never developed a concept of acceptable losses in warfare. Admiral Thexmore's organic eye narrowed. Admiral Chun, please tell me you're not suggesting what I think you're suggesting. That depends on what you think I'm suggesting. A direct assault on the Zephyrian staging areas using treated personnel as shock troops. Not quite, Marcus said, activating his personal tactical display. I'm suggesting we use treated personnel as weapons of mass destruction. The bridge fell silent. Zaratich could feel her enhanced physiology responding to the implied threat level. Combat stimulants flooding her system while her mind processed potential tactical scenarios at accelerated rates. Explain, she commanded. Marcus's display showed the distribution of immunity-treated personnel across both empires. We have 2 million enhanced individuals with complete bioweapon immunity and genetic knowledge of biological warfare. Dr. Kim's latest research suggests they're not just immune to Zephyrian bioweapons. They can actively weaponize Zephyrian organisms against their creators. You want to turn our people into bio-warriors, Admiral Thexmore said slowly. I want to turn our people into antibodies, Marcus corrected. The Zephyrians think of biowarfare as asymmetric advantage. But what happens when they encounter organisms that don't just resist their weapons? Organisms that convert their weapons into countermeasures. Dr. Kethval's voice came through the communication system from the medical bay. Admiral Chun, are you suggesting using treated individuals as vectors for modified Zephyrian bioweapons? I'm suggesting, Marcus said carefully, that we demonstrate why humans have never lost a biological warfare engagement, even when we didn't know we were fighting one. Zaratich felt her enhanced cognition processing the implications at superhuman speed. You're talking about weaponizing the immunity treatment itself. The immunity treatment creates individuals who can survive in any biological warfare environment, Marcus confirmed. But it also creates individuals who can shape biological warfare environments to their advantage. Show me the tactical application, Admiral Thexmore demanded. Marcus activated a combat simulation that made Zaratich's enhanced reflexes tense involuntarily. Treated personnel board Zephyrian vessels using infiltration pods. Once aboard, their modified biology begins interacting with the ship's biosystems. Instead of being consumed by the ship's organisms, they convert the ship's organisms into weapons against the crew. The simulation showed human figures moving through Zephyrian bioships, leaving trails of transformed organisms that systematically compromise ship functions. What had been hostile biological environments became extensions of the human infiltrators' immune systems. The bioships literally turn against their own crews, Dr. Kethval observed with scientific fascination. The treated individuals become biological viruses designed to reprogram Zephyrian technology. How many infiltrators would we need per ship? Zara TH asked, her tactical instincts engaging despite the moral implications. Based on simulation results, between 3 and 5 treated individuals per capital ship, Marcus replied. They don't need to fight the crews directly. They just need to survive long enough for their modified biology to compromise the ship's biosystems. Admiral Thexmore's expression was unreadable. Admiral Chun, you're describing biological warfare on a scale that would make the Zephyrians look restrained. I'm describing the only tactical approach that gives us a chance against 1,500 bio ships, Marcus replied evenly. Admiral, the Zephyrians chose to make this a biological war. I'm simply suggesting we show them what biological warfare looks like when practiced by a species that evolved to survive it. And if our people refuse to serve as biological weapons, then we lose, Marcus said simply. And every species in the galaxy follows us into extinction. Zara TH looked around the bridge, noting how her enhanced senses were picking up stress pheromones from the Veltar crew and elevated heart rates from the humans. The weight of the decision was affecting everyone present. There has to be another way, she said finally. Princess, Marcus said gently, we've run every simulation, analyzed every tactical option, and consulted with our best strategic minds. The Zephyrians have chosen the time and method of this engagement. Our only advantage is that they don't yet understand what the immunity treatment actually does, which is, it turns every treated individual into a biological warfare specialist capable of surviving and thriving in any biocombat environment. The Zephyrians created their own worst nightmare. They just don't know it yet. Admiral Thexmore stepped forward. If we proceed with this plan, there's no going back. We'll be transforming our people into something unprecedented in galactic history. Our people are already becoming something unprecedented, Zara TH pointed out. The question is whether we guide that transformation or let it happen randomly. And the moral implications? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Admiral, I've seen what the Zephyrians do to conquered species. I've walked through colonies where they dissolved every living thing down to the microbial level. The moral implications of defeating them pale beside the moral implications of letting them continue. Princess, Admiral Thexmore asked, this is ultimately your decision. As the heir to the Veltar Empire, your word will determine our course of action. Zara TH closed her eyes, feeling her enhanced cognition processing thousands of variables. Her improved reflexes, her instinctive tactical knowledge, her accelerated healing, all gifts from human genetic modification designed to survive biological warfare. How long to train our people in these new capabilities? She asked. The genetic knowledge is already integrated, Dr. Kethval reported from the medical bay. They simply need to access it consciously. Based on human training protocols, approximately 72 hours for basic proficiency. And how long before the Zephyrian advance forces reach our territory? 96 hours, Admiral Thexmore confirmed. Zara TH opened her eyes and looked directly at Marcus. Admiral Chun, you're asking me to turn my people into biological weapons. I'm asking you to let your people become what they were modified to be, Marcus replied. The choice is whether they do it in time to save the galaxy. She nodded slowly. Then, let's show the Zephyrians what happens when they threaten a galaxy full of enhanced humans. 72 hours later, Zara TH found herself in the launching bay of the Eternal Wisdom, surrounded by 200 volunteers from across 17 different species. Each one had undergone the immunity treatment, and each one was about to test their new capabilities against the Zephyrian Advance Fleet in the most unconventional military operation in galactic history. Infiltration pods are loaded and ready, reported Commander Sarah Kim, who had transferred from research duties to field operations with the kind of casual competence that Zara TH was learning to associate with humans under pressure. Each pod contains environmental systems designed to keep the occupants alive during biological integration phases. How long from insertion to ship compromise? Zara TH asked, running through her own mental checklist. The enhanced reflexes and tactical knowledge felt natural now, as if she had always possessed them. Based on simulation, between 40 minutes and 2 hours, depending on the size of the target vessel, Marcus replied. He was suited in infiltration armor that looked more like a biological interface system than protective gear. The larger hive ships will take longer to compromise, but they'll also provide the greatest tactical advantage once converted. Admiral Thexmore's voice came through their communication systems from a bridge. Zephyrian Advanced Fleet has dropped to sublight. 15 capital bio ships, approximately 300 support vessels, and 2 hive ships. They're maintaining formation at the edge of sensor range. Perfect, Marcus said with satisfaction. They're being cautious because they don't understand what they're facing. Zara TH checked her infiltration gear one final time. The biointerface suit would protect her during the initial penetration of Zephyrian ship hulls, while her enhanced immune system would handle biological integration with the target vessel's organisms. In theory, Princess, came Dr. Kethval's voice through her suit communicator. Remember that your enhanced biology will attempt to integrate with any Zephyrian organisms you encounter. Don't fight the process, guide it. Your genetic modifications include instinctive knowledge of biosystem manipulation. Any final advice? She asked Marcus. Trust your instincts. The genetic memory will feel like intuition, but it's actually 50,000 years of survival experience. When in doubt, let your enhanced reflexes make decisions for you. Around the launching bay, volunteers from the various species were making their own final preparations. Zara TH noted that despite their different physiologies, they all moved with the same enhanced grace that marked the immunity treatment. Veltar, humans, the insectoid Kethari, even the gaseous ethereal representatives in their containment suits, all displayed the improved reflexes and unconscious tactical awareness that came with human genetic modifications. All teams, this is command, Admiral Thexmore announced. Zephyrian Fleet is beginning their attack run on the outer colonies. Estimated time to engagement, 30 minutes. Launch infiltration pods, Marcus ordered. The launching bay opened to reveal the star field beyond, with the approaching Zephyrian Fleet visible as malevolent organic shapes against the cosmic backdrop. 200 pods shot into space, each one carrying enhanced individuals toward what would either be the most successful military operation in galactic history or the most spectacular failure. Zara TH's pod was targeted at one of the hive ships, massive bio-vessels capable of spawning unlimited fighters and serving as mobile command centers. As her pod approached the alien vessel, she got her first close look at Zephyrian biotechnology. The hive ship was less a spacecraft than a living ecosystem. Its hull pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, while massive organic conduits channeled nutrients and information throughout its structure. Smaller organisms moved across its surface like antibodies, and the entire vessel radiated the kind of biological menace that had made the Zephyrians the terror of the galaxy. Infiltration pods are being targeted by biodefenses, came reports from across the attack force. Switching to penetration mode, Zara TH activated her pod's bio-cutter, watching as it carved through the hive ship's hull with surgical precision. The vessel's immune systems responded immediately, organic defenses flooding toward the breach point like an infection fighting white blood cells. Penetration successful, she reported, ejecting from her pod into the alien ship's interior. Beginning biological integration. The inside of the hive ship was a nightmare of organic tunnels, pulsing walls, and symbiotic organisms that immediately identified her as a foreign presence. Bioweapon secretions filled the air around her, substances that would have killed any normal life form within seconds. Instead, Zara TH felt her enhanced immune system engaging with the alien biology. Rather than fighting the bioweapons, her modified cells began analyzing and adapting to them. The genetic knowledge integrated into her DNA provided understanding of Zephyrian biotechnology that felt like remembered experience. Integration proceeding normally, she reported, moving deeper into the ship's biostructure. Host organisms are responding to modification attempts. Around her, the ship's biological systems were beginning to change. Where Zephyrian organisms had tried to consume her, they were instead being reprogrammed by her enhanced immune system. The process felt natural, like directing her own body's healing responses. Hive Ship 7 showing anomalous bio patterns, came a report from the main fleet. Internal systems appear to be undergoing systematic modification. That's Princess Zaratich. Marcus's voice came through the communication net with evident pride. She's converting the ship's biosystems to our tactical advantage. Through her enhanced senses, Zaratich could feel the Hive ship's biological network responding to her presence. The ship's spawning chambers were beginning to produce organisms loyal to her rather than their original programming. Nutrient flows were being redirected according to her subconscious commands. Even the ship's biocomputational systems were adapting to serve her tactical needs. "This is incredible," she reported, watching as Zephyrian crew members fled from sections of their own ship that were no longer under their control. "The ship is becoming an extension of my immune system." Similar reports from all infiltration teams, Commander Kim announced. Bioship systems are being systematically compromised across the Zephyrian fleet. On her enhanced tactical display, Zaratich could see the progress of the other infiltrators. Each successful penetration created a growing zone of modified biosystems that turned Zephyrian vessels against their own crews. The process was spreading faster than the aliens could counter it. Zephyrian fleet is beginning emergency withdrawal procedures, Admiral Thexmore reported. They're abandoning ships that show signs of biosystem compromise. "Negative," Marcus commanded. "All infiltrators prevent escape. These ships are now ours." Zaratich felt the tactical knowledge integrated into her genetics, providing specific instructions. Moving through her converted bioship with inhuman speed, she reached the vessel's central nervous system, a massive organic brain that controlled all ship functions. When she placed her hands on the biocomputational surface, the genetic modifications in her cells established direct neural interface with the ship's consciousness. For a moment, she experienced the alien intelligence's confusion and terror as it realized that its own biology was being turned against it. Then, her enhanced immune system completed its takeover, and the Hive ship became truly hers. "Hive Ship 7 is under complete control," she reported, flexing her newfound authority over the massive biovessel. "All systems responding to my commands." "Outstanding. All teams, report status." The responses came in rapid succession as enhanced individuals across 17 species demonstrated their new capabilities. Capital Ship 3 converted and secured. Support Vessels 12 through 27 responding to modified biocommands. Hive Ship 14 spawning chambers now producing friendly fighters. In less than 2 hours, the entire Zephyrian advance fleet had been converted from an invasion force into an extension of the Allied military. Vessels that had arrived to destroy human and Veltar colonies were now producing biofighters loyal to their new enhanced commanders. Admiral Thexmore, Marcus called from his own captured bioship, "Please transmit our terms to the main Zephyrian fleet." "Terms?" Zaratich asked, though she suspected she knew what Marcus had in mind. "Princess, we now control 17 bioships, including 2 Hive ships capable of unlimited spawning. The Zephyrians can either retreat and abandon their expansion efforts, or they can discover what happens when their own biotechnology is turned against them by people who were genetically designed to excel at biological warfare." The response from the main Zephyrian fleet came within an hour, a complete withdrawal from Allied space, and a formal request for diplomatic negotiations. "They want to negotiate?" Admiral Thexmore asked with evident disbelief. "They want to survive," Marcus corrected. "They've just discovered that their primary military advantage has become their primary vulnerability. Every bioship they bring against us is another bioship we can convert to our forces. 3 days later, Zara-TH stood in the diplomatic chambers aboard the Eternal Wisdom, across from a delegation of Zephyrian representatives. The aliens were clearly disturbed by what they had witnessed. Their most advanced biowarfare technology turned against them by species they had considered primitive. "The terms are simple," she announced, her enhanced cognition allowing her to process their biolanguage communications in real time. Immediate cessation of all expansion activities, withdrawal from all contested territories, and submission to galactic oversight of your bioweapon development programs. The lead Zephyrian representative, a complex colony organism that communicated through biochemical exchanges, responded with what translated as desperate protest. "You ask us to abandon our species' fundamental nature. We're bioshapers. It is what we are. Then, learn to shape biosystems for creation rather than destruction," Marcus interjected. "The galaxy has room for bioshapers. It doesn't have room for species that practice systematic genocide. And if we refuse..." Zara-TH activated a holographic display showing the converted Zephyrian ships now under Allied control. "Then we demonstrate that enhanced humans are better at biological warfare than the species that invented it." The negotiations concluded within hours. Faced with opponents who could turn their own weapons against them, the Zephyrians chose strategic retreat over tactical annihilation. 6 months later, Zara-TH and Marcus stood together on the observation deck of their shared flagship, watching as mixed crews of enhanced individuals from across the galaxy conducted joint training exercises. The immunity treatment had spread to dozens of species, creating a galactic civilization that was stronger, faster, and more resilient than anything in recorded history. "Any regrets about the marriage alliance?" Marcus asked, his arm around her waist in a gesture that would have been impossible before her physical enhancement. "About marrying you? None whatsoever," she replied, enjoying the way her enhanced senses allowed her to detect his emotional state through minute physiological changes. "About turning the galaxy into enhanced humans? Sometimes. Worried about what we're becoming." She considered this, watching as a mixed crew of humans and Veltar worked together with the kind of efficiency that only came from shared genetic modifications. "I'm worried about what we might have to become to survive what comes next." "What do you mean?" "Marcus, we've proven that human genetic modifications can defeat Zephyrian biotechnology. But what created those modifications in the first place? What were humans originally designed to fight?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his enhanced cognition processing the implications. "You think there's something else out there?" "I think humans weren't modified just to survive the Zephyrians. I think you were modified to survive something much worse. And now that we've spread those modifications across the galaxy..." She paused, her tactical instincts providing uncomfortable possibilities. "What happens when we encounter whatever originally required that level of biological warfare capability?" Then, Marcus said with distinctly human confidence,